In Alien Royals, mock a human bartender. The stunning climax arrives when Kate, pressed to her breaking point, stands tall and activates a hidden switch. The seedy bar dissolves, revealing a military outpost as armed Marines flood in. Admiral Catherine Morrison, Terran Defense Force, she announces to the shocked nobles, their mockery transformed into horror as their treason is broadcast to their homeworlds. Smoke curled lazily through the dim light of Murphy's last call, a seedy cantina tucked away in the forgotten corners of Nexus Station. The clinking of glasses and murmur of conversations in a dozen different languages created a comforting cacophony for Kate Morrison as she wiped down the sticky bar counter with practiced precision. Her movements were economical, each swipe of the cloth deliberate and thorough. Nothing in her demeanor suggested she was anything more than what she appeared to be. Just another human trying to make ends meet on the fringes of civilized space. "Katie, darling, how about another round for your favorite customers?" Bill called from his usual corner table, where he sat with his wife Martha. The elderly couple frequented Murphy's almost daily, their weathered faces and kind smiles a fixture in the establishment. "Coming right up," Kate replied, her voice carrying just the right amount of cheerful servitude. She grabbed 2 tumblers and filled them with amber liquid, noting how the couple's eyes constantly scanned the room. Ordinary patrons wouldn't notice, but Kate wasn't ordinary, and neither were they. As she delivered their drinks, a Taurian smuggler at the bar raised his tentacle to signal for service. Beside him, a voidwalker with translucent skin nursed a concoction that would be lethal to most carbon-based life forms. These were her regulars, the outcasts, rogues, and drifters that made Nexus Station the perfect crossroads for galactic intelligence. "Heard anything interesting lately, Grav?" Kate asked the Taurian as she slid him his usual poison. The smuggler's eye stalks twitched nervously. "Word is there's big players moving through the station, the kind that make me want to find another port." Kate nodded, absorbing the information while maintaining her disinterested expression. "Big players are good for business." "Not these ones," Grav muttered, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Royalty. And word is, they're meeting buyers for something that could get us all vaporized." Kate's hand paused almost imperceptibly as she rearranged bottles behind the bar. The mission briefings had mentioned chatter about a spy ring operating on Nexus, but royalty involvement suggested stakes higher than initially assessed. Before she could probe further, the cantina's entrance hissed open, and a sudden hush fell over the room. 5 figures stood silhouetted against the harsh corridor lighting, their ornate attire immediately marking them as out of place in the humble establishment. Leading the group was a tall, reptilian being whose scales shimmered with an iridescence that spoke of expensive genetic modifications. A royal crest adorned his chestplate, and his elongated head bore a circlet of precious metals. Prince Vexar of the Scalar Dominion had a reputation that preceded him: brutal, calculating, and pathologically disdainful of humans. Beside him stood Princess Zara, her crystalline form catching and fracturing light in disorienting patterns. The Diamante heir was known throughout 3 sectors for her cutting remarks, both literal and figurative. Duke Thornak lumbered behind them, a massive plant-based being whose thorny appendages had disemboweled countless opponents in duels. 2 lesser nobles, a slender, serpentine creature and a hovering gelatinous mass, completed the entourage. The cantina patrons shrank back as the nobles strode toward the bar, their expressions ranging from contemptuous to outright disgusted at having to frequent such an establishment. "So this is where the vermin gather," Prince Vexar announced, his bifurcated tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "How quaint." Kate kept her expression neutral as she stepped forward. "Welcome to Murphy's Last Call. What can I get for you?" Princess Zara's crystalline face fractured into what might have been a smile. "It speaks as though we are equals. Charming, in a primitive way." We require your finest Arcturan brandy, Prince Vexar demanded, his talons clicking against the bar surface. Though I doubt this establishment has anything approaching fine. Kate nodded and turned to retrieve the bottle from the top shelf, one of the few genuinely expensive items Murphy stocked. As she reached up, she was acutely aware of the noble's eyes on her, assessing her like one might examine an insect before crushing it underfoot. Look at how it stretches, Duke Thornac rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. Humans are so poorly designed. No wonder they required our assistance to achieve interstellar travel. Kate uncorked the brandy and began pouring 5 measures into crystal glasses, another rarity saved for distinguished guests. Her hands remained steady, even as the noble's laughter grew louder, their comments more pointed. Did you know? Prince Vexar announced loudly enough for the entire cantina to hear. That humans once believed they would rule the galaxy, before they met the rest of us, of course. Princess Zara's laugh sounded like shattering glass. They still cling to their delusions of adequacy. It's why we keep them around, for amusement. Kate placed the glasses on a tray and served each noble in turn, starting with Prince Vexar as protocol demanded. When she reached Princess Zara, the crystalline royal deliberately shifted, causing Kate's arm to bump against her jagged shoulder. The salt shaker Kate had been holding clattered to the floor, spilling white crystals across the sticky floorboards. "Clumsy creature," Princess Zara hissed. "Clean it up." Kate knelt without hesitation, aware that every eye in the cantina was now fixed on her. As she gathered the salt with her bare hands, Duke Thornac deliberately moved his massive foot, crushing her fingers against the floor. Pain shot through her hand, but she didn't flinch. "My apologies." The plant being rumbled without a trace of sincerity. Kate stood, salt collected, and returned to her position behind the bar. The pressure in the room had changed. Even the regular patrons looked uncomfortable now. Several had already slipped out the door, unwilling to witness what was clearly becoming a dangerous situation. "I think I'm hungry," Prince Vexar announced suddenly. "Bring me something edible, bartender." Kate nodded and stepped into the small kitchen behind the bar. She quickly prepared a plate of synthesized protein that the replicator labeled as compatible with scalar digestion, and returned to the main room. As she set the plate before the prince, he looked at it with exaggerated disgust. "This is what passes for food here? Perhaps I should have the chef instead." His talons shot out, gripping Kate's wrist with enough force to bruise. "My sincerest apologies, Your Highness," Kate murmured, lowering her eyes in submission. "It's the best our humble establishment can offer." Prince Vexar stared at her for a long moment before releasing her wrist and sweeping the plate off the bar with a casual flick of his tail. It shattered against the wall, food and ceramic shards scattering across the floor. "Clean it," he ordered. Once again, Kate knelt, this time gathering sharp fragments that cut into her palms. Blood smeared across the floor, mixing with the spilled food. Through it all, she maintained her composure, her movements methodical and efficient. Inside, however, rage burned like a supernova. Admiral Catherine Morrison, decorated hero of the Proxima Centauri campaign and architect of the victory at Epsilon Eridani, was not accustomed to being anyone's servant. But the mission parameters were clear: maintain cover, gather intelligence, neutralize the threat. Her personal dignity was a small price to pay for Earth's security. As she cleaned, she caught fragments of the noble's conversation. Routes through the Cygnus Arm are well patrolled now. Friends in high places assured me the codes are authentic. Buyers will arrive within the hour. Kate filed away each piece of information, building a mental dossier while appearing oblivious to anything beyond her immediate task. When she returned to the bar, she noticed something caught in the elaborate folds of Prince Vexar's ceremonial coat, a small crystal that emitted a faint blue glow when the light hit it at certain angles. "Another round," Duke Thornac demanded, slamming his empty glass down with enough force to crack it. Kate complied, noting how the cantina had emptied significantly. Only Bill and Martha remained in their corner, seemingly absorbed in a game of cards. A few alien patrons lingered near the exits, their postures tense. Among them was Krell, a Centaurian trader known for playing both sides of any conflict. His 4 eyes met Kate's briefly, and she gave an almost imperceptible shake of her head. Not yet. As Kate served the second round of drinks, Prince Vexar reached into his coat and withdrew the crystal she had glimpsed earlier. Now in full view, it pulsed with an inner light that cast eerie shadows across the nobles' faces. "Our merchandise," he announced, holding it up for his companions to admire. "Earth's orbital defense codes, direct from their central command. The Void Hunters will pay handsomely for this." Kate's heart rate increased slightly, the only outward sign of her shock. Earth's defense grid was supposed to be impenetrable. Its codes changed daily and compartmentalized among a dozen different officers. A breach of this magnitude would render the entire planet vulnerable. "Are you certain of its authenticity?" Princess Zara asked, leaning forward to examine the crystal. "Tested it myself," Prince Vexar confirmed. "It gave us access to their satellite systems for 30 seconds before we disengaged. Any longer would have triggered their alert protocols." "The humans remain blissfully unaware," added the Serpentine noble, speaking for the first time. His voice was a silky whisper that nonetheless carried across the now quiet cantina. "Their arrogance makes them careless." Kate continued her bartending duties, circulating among the nobles to refill glasses and clear empty plates. Each movement brought her closer to the crystal, each moment an opportunity to observe its structure and the data it contained. In the corner, Bill had abandoned his card game and was now staring intently at his drink, his wrinkled hand tapping a pattern on the table that only Kate would recognize as TDF combat code. "Stand by. Assets incoming. Delay targets." Kate acknowledged the message with a subtle adjustment of her apron, then deliberately slowed her movements. Whatever reinforcements were en route needed time to position themselves. "I grow tired of this place," Princess Zara announced, stretching her crystalline limbs in a display that sent rainbow-hued reflections dancing across the walls. "When will the buyers arrive?" "Soon," Prince Vexar assured her, checking a device on his wrist. "They're docking now." The crystal remained on the table between them, its glow intensifying with each passing minute. Kate knew she needed to keep the nobles in place until the trap could be sprung, but also needed to ensure the crystal didn't leave with the approaching buyers. An idea formed, risky, but potentially effective. Kate approached with a fresh bottle of brandy, moving with slightly less precision than before, as though the long hours of harassment had finally taken their toll on her concentration. As she leaned across the table to pour, her arm brushed against the crystal, nudging it several inches across the smooth surface. The reaction was instantaneous. Prince Vexar's talon shot out, seizing her throat in a vice-like grip. "You dare touch our property, human filth!" His other hand produced a plasma blade that hummed with lethal energy. "It was an accident," Kate gasped, allowing genuine fear to color her voice. The blade hovered millimeters from her eye, its heat causing her skin to blister. "Please, Your Highness." "Perhaps we should make an example of this one," Duke Thornax suggested, his thorny appendages flexing eagerly. "It would amuse us while we wait." Kate felt the pressure increase on her windpipe as Prince Vexar lifted her partially off the ground. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision, but her mind remained clear, calculating. She had faced worse odds. The vacuum of space when her flagship's hull had been breached during the Battle of Tau Ceti. The neutron radiation that had nearly killed her as she manually realigned the drive core on the TDF Indomitable. "Wait," she choked out, clawing at the scaly hand around her throat. "I know. Things. Valuable things." The pressure eased slightly, allowing her to draw a shallow breath. What could a creature like you possibly know that would interest us? Princess Zara demanded, her crystalline features refracting the dim cantina light into sharp, prismatic patterns. Kate adopted a panicked expression. Merchant patrol schedules. I hear things. Serving drinks. When the security ships make their rounds. Which sectors they leave unmonitored. It was a calculated risk, offering information that seemed valuable, but couldn't actually compromise Earth security. The nobles exchanged glances. Their interest piqued. Speak, Prince Vexar commanded, lowering her to the ground but keeping the plasma blade hovering near her face. The Cygnus arm route you mentioned, Kate stammered, playing the role of a terrified informant. There's a gap in patrols every third cycle. The captains stop at Outpost Zeta for supplies. Takes them off the grid for nearly an hour. Duke Thornick's leafy brow furrowed. How would a human bartender know patrol schedules? Kate allowed a nervous laugh to escape her lips. You'd be surprised what people talk about after a few drinks, especially when they think the bartender is just part of the furniture. Prince Vexar studied her, his reptilian eyes unblinking. If you're lying. I'm not, Kate insisted, her voice cracking appropriately. I have a whole network of contacts. Survival in a place like this means knowing things. When to keep your head down. Which ships to avoid. The nobles conferred briefly, in low tones. Their suspicion evident, but tempered by greed. Information like this, if accurate, could prove useful for future operations. Very well, Prince Vexar finally decided, retracting the plasma blade but not sheathing it. You live for now, but you'll remain here until we can verify your claims. Kate nodded eagerly, rubbing her bruised throat. Thank you, Your Highness. You won't regret it. We shall see, the prince replied coldly. A notification chimed on his wrist device, drawing his attention. The buyers are docking now. They'll send representatives shortly. He turned to his companions. Prepare the merchandise. The crystal was carefully placed in a containment field that intensified its glow. Kate watched, calculating distances and angles. The entrance to Murphy's was 15 paces away. The hidden switch beneath the bar was 3 steps behind her. The nobles were distracted, focused on the impending transaction. It was time. Kate straightened her posture, abandoning the subservient slouch she had maintained for months. With deliberate steps, she moved behind the bar, her hand finding the concealed switch without needing to look. What are you doing? Princess Zara demanded, noticing the change in demeanor. Kate's finger pressed the switch. Concluding our business, she replied, her voice dropping an octave to its natural command tone. The air around them shimmered as holographic projectors disengaged. The dingy walls of Murphy's last call dissolved, revealing sleek metal panels embedded with surveillance equipment. Hidden doors slid open, and armored Marines poured in, weapons trained on the stunned nobles. Bill and Martha stood from their corner table, their elderly appearance melting away to reveal Colonel Turner and Major Grant, 2 of Earth's most decorated intelligence officers. What is the meaning of this? Prince Vexar hissed, plasma blade raised defensively. Kate stepped forward, shoulders squared, chin lifted. Her stained bartender's uniform still bore the marks of their abuse, but her bearing was unmistakably military now. Prince Vexar, Princess Zara, Duke Thornack, and associates, she announced formally. You are under arrest for espionage, conspiracy to commit acts of war against Earth, and violation of the Galactic Accord of 2157. The prince's scales flattened against his body in fury. You dare? Do you know who we are? Perfectly, Kate replied calmly. And right now, your governments know exactly who you are too. She gestured to the surveillance equipment surrounding them. This entire operation has been live-streamed to your respective homeworlds, along with evidence of your attempted sale of classified defense codes. On cue, holographic screens materialized around the room, displaying the reactions of various alien councils and royal courts. The shock and outrage were evident even across species barriers. "I am a sovereign prince," Vexar roared, lunging forward only to be restrained by 4 Marines wielding electromagnetic restraints designed specifically for his species. Kate corrected him. "According to that transmission from your Council of Elders, you've just been stripped of title and diplomatic immunity." Similar pronouncements echoed from the other screens as the nobles' own governments disavowed their actions. Interstellar relations were delicate enough without royal families being implicated in espionage against Earth. Duke Thornak tried to activate some kind of device in his thorny appendage, but Major Grant was faster, deploying a targeted EMP that disabled it without harming the plant being's biological systems. "I'd advise against resistance," Kate said evenly. "Your respective governments have already dispatched ships to collect you. The penalties for treason, I believe, are particularly severe on your worlds." Princess Zara's crystalline form seemed to dim as the reality of her situation became clear. "Who are you?" she demanded. Kate stepped closer, meeting the princess's fractured gaze without flinching. "Admiral Catherine Morrison, Terran Defense Force. The human you've been torturing for the past hour commands Earth's 5th Fleet." The shock on their faces was worth every moment of humiliation she had endured. "Impossible," the Serpentine noble whispered. "You'll find that humans are full of surprises," Kate replied, "including our ability to endure insults when necessary." Colonel Turner approached, offering Kate a clean uniform jacket, bearing her admiral's insignia. "Operation successful, Admiral. The Void Hunter's ship has been captured intact with all hands. Their network is being dismantled as we speak." Kate nodded, shrugging into the jacket with practiced ease. "Casualties?" "None on our side. 2 Void Hunters injured during the boarding action." "Excellent." Kate turned her attention back to the nobles, who were being secured for transport. "And the crystal?" Major Grant carefully deactivated the containment field and secured the crystal in a specialized case. "Countermeasures are already being implemented. Earth's defense grid will be reconfigured within the hour." "How long?" Prince Vexar suddenly asked, his voice hollow with defeat. "How long have you been playing this charade?" Kate regarded him coolly. 9 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. Every insult, every humiliation, every human weakness you mocked was noted and recorded. Your arrogance made you predictable." The prince's scales darkened with rage or perhaps shame. "You could have taken us at any time." "We needed the buyers, the crystal, and all of your co-conspirators," Kate explained. "A single arrest would have sent the others into hiding. Patience is another human trait you underestimated." Outside the former cantina, now revealed as a sophisticated TDF intelligence outpost, the docking clamps engaged as ships from 5 different worlds arrived to collect their disgraced nobles. The corridor filled with the sound of marching feet and formal declarations as diplomats and security forces converged. Kate turned to Colonel Turner. "Signal the fleet. Operation Humble Servant is complete. Have them decloak and assume standard patrol formation." The colonel's eyes widened slightly. "The entire 5th Fleet has been in position this whole time?" Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Insurance. I didn't anticipate needing it. But when gambling with Earth security, I prefer loaded dice." As the nobles were led away, Kate caught Prince Vexar looking back at her, his expression unreadable. She met his gaze steadily, neither triumphant nor vindictive, simply resolute. The last of the prisoners disappeared through the doorway, leaving Kate alone with her officers in the revealed command center. Only then did she allow her shoulders to relax slightly. "Damage report," she asked, gesturing to her injured hand. Dr. Eliza Chen, the unit's medical officer, stepped forward with a portable regenerator. "Minor lacerations and contusions. Nothing the region can't handle." She ran the device over Kate's wounds, sealing the cuts and reducing the swelling. "Though I'd recommend a full physical once we're back on Earth." Kate nodded her thanks as the cool relief of the regenerator spread through her battered tissues. Colonel Turner, Major Grant, excellent work maintaining your cover. I don't think I've ever seen you so convincingly elderly. Turner grinned, the last traces of his Bill persona falling away. 9 months of practicing shuffling and complaining about my back. Grant here nearly broke character when that Taurian stepped on her foot last week. Major Grant snorted. Says the man who almost attacked Duke Thornak when he first manhandled you. Admiral. The camaraderie felt good after months of isolation. Though surrounded by her team, Kate's role as the cantina's sole human bartender had required a certain distance from even her fellow officers. The intelligence we've gathered extends far beyond these 5, Kate noted, reviewing the data streaming across the command center's displays. Their communications have implicated at least 24 officials across 7 worlds. The diplomatic fallout will be substantial, Turner observed. But controlled, Kate countered, by allowing their governments to witness the evidence firsthand. We've given them the opportunity to handle this internally, much cleaner than a public accusation from Earth. Grant nodded appreciatively. And more effective. Nothing motivates alien aristocracy like saving face. The holographic communicator chimed, and Kate activated it to reveal the stern visage of Fleet Admiral Harrison. Admiral Morrison, he greeted her formally. The Security Council has reviewed your preliminary report. Congratulations on a successful operation. Thank you, sir, Kate replied. The Fifth Fleet stands ready to escort the diplomatic contingents back to their respective territories. Harrison's expression softened slightly. That won't be necessary. The Arcturian hegemony has offered their battle cruisers as neutral escorts, a gesture of goodwill to demonstrate their non-involvement in this conspiracy. Kate raised an eyebrow. Convenient timing on their part. Politics, Harrison said with a slight grimace. But useful in this instance. You and the Fifth Fleet are ordered to return to Earth immediately. The President wishes to personally debrief you. Understood, sir. We'll depart within the hour. The communication ended, and Kate turned to her officers. You heard the man. Wrap up operations here and prepare for departure. As her team dispersed to their duties, Kate walked to the large viewport that had been concealed behind Murphy's grimy artificial window. Outside, the sleek shapes of Earth vessels shimmered into visibility as their cloaking fields disengaged. The Fifth Fleet, 27 ships of the line, from nimble corvettes to the massive flagship TDF-Indomitable, arranged themselves in formation against the backdrop of distant stars. For 9 months, they had maintained position, hidden from even Nexus Station's sophisticated sensors, ready to intervene if the operation had gone wrong. Kate felt a surge of pride as she observed them, the best-trained crews in the fleet, patient and disciplined enough to endure months of waiting without complaint. Later, in her private quarters aboard the Indomitable, Kate recorded her official log entry. The uniform felt strange after so long in a bartender's stained clothes. The captain's chair almost too comfortable compared to the hard stools at Murphy's. Admiral's log, stardate 2274.118, she began, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Operation Humble Servant has concluded successfully. The spy ring trafficking Earth's defense codes has been neutralized, with all primary conspirators in custody. The Void Hunter network linked to the operation is being systematically dismantled by TDF intelligence, with assistance from aligned alien governments. She paused, considering her next words carefully. A personal observation. Throughout human history, our species has been underestimated by those who mistake humility for weakness, patience for fear, and adaptability for lack of resolve. Today, 5 alien nobles learned that appearances can be deceiving, and that Earth's greatest strength may be our willingness to endure temporary humiliation in pursuit of lasting security. Kate ended the recording and leaned back in her chair, finally allowing herself to feel the accumulated fatigue of her long assignment. Her hand, though healed by the regenerator, still held the memory of pain where Duke Thornak had crushed it beneath his foot. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called, straightening in her chair. Major Grant stepped in, a data tablet in hand. "Final reports from all ships. Admiral, we're ready to depart on your command." Kate accepted the tablet, scanning the information quickly. "All prisoner transfers complete?" "Yes, ma'am. The respective diplomatic vessels have already entered hyperspace." Kate nodded, satisfied. "Set course for Earth, standard cruising speed. I think we've all earned a few days of routine travel before the debriefings begin." "Aye, Admiral," Grant hesitated, then added, "the crew has requested permission to host a small celebration in the mess hall tonight. Nothing elaborate, just a recognition of the mission's success." Kate smiled. "Permission granted. I'll make an appearance." After Grant departed, Kate returned to the viewport in her quarters, watching as Nexus Station receded in the distance. The massive space hub continued its eternal rotation, its millions of inhabitants unaware of how close they had come to being at the center of an interstellar incident. Somewhere among those teeming corridors, a few patrons of Murphy's Last Call were undoubtedly spinning tales of what they had witnessed, how a human bartender had been revealed as an admiral, how alien royalty had been arrested before their eyes. The story would grow with each retelling, becoming legend in the shadowy corners of the station where rumors were currency. The Indomitable's engines hummed as the ship accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point. Kate felt the familiar vibration through her boots, a sensation far more comforting than the sticky floor of the cantina had ever been. As stars began to streak past the viewport, Kate's thoughts turned to the intelligence briefing she had reviewed just before the nobles arrived at Murphy's. A concerning pattern of communication between a high-ranking Earth official and an unknown entity in the Cygnus sector. Nothing conclusive yet, but enough to warrant investigation. One mission completed, another beginning. The work of protecting Earth never truly ended. Admiral Catherine Morrison, briefly Katie the bartender, now restored to her rightful position, straightened her uniform and prepared to address her crew. There would be time enough for new threats tomorrow. Tonight was for celebrating victories, honoring sacrifices, and remembering that sometimes the most powerful weapon in humanity's arsenal was the ability to appear powerless. As she left her quarters, Kate made a mental note to recommend commendations for every member of her team, especially Major Grant, who had endured being called Martha for 9 months without once breaking character. The doors of the lift opened onto the command deck, where her officers stood at attention. Beyond them, through the main viewport, Earth waited, small and blue and impossibly fragile against the vastness of space, yet defended by men and women willing to endure any hardship to keep it safe. "Admiral on deck," announced the duty officer. Kate stepped forward, ready to command once more. "Set course for home," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The stars blurred as the Indomitable leapt into hyperspace, carrying its admiral and crew back to the planet whose secrets they had protected through patience, cunning, and the willingness to be underestimated.